Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
Yes, the theme this month is Leaders of Light. And of course, we can't be leaders without being kind to ourselves. Because what happens when we're in light? Like if you have a lamp post, right? And it's all dark around there and there's a big bright light there. What else do we see with the lamp post? All the moths and the dark stuff flying around there. You can see your darkness more when you're standing in the light. As long as you're hiding in the shadows and nobody can see you, you're good. But the more you say, I'm going to shine my light, I'm going to let my light shine, you'll see all aspects of who you are. It becomes less, you become less able to hide from them. And so we have to be kind to ourselves. Years ago, when I was in college, I was taking a class on international relations, and the professor was talking about some idea, and he was talking about it as, like, of course, everybody who's thoughtful thinks this way. And I was sitting there listening to him, I'm like, yeah, my dad doesn't really agree with that. But I agree with him. It is obvious. How could, and not just, he wasn't just saying he thought this. He had all these people who thought this way too, who were very smart. So I'm thinking, how can my dad think so differently? So the next time I was home on break, I said, hey, Dad, how is it that you think so differently than everyone else? And he said, well, that's an essay question, Harriet. And I said, well, can you give me a summary? And he said, no. And so I had to decide, did I really want to hear what he had to say enough to spend a really long time listening to him? And eventually I really did, because I couldn't figure out how he thought the way he thought. So we went out to dinner. It was a 2-hour dinner. I would say it was a 2-hour conversation, but it was really a lesson of me listening and receiving. And it was extraordinary, as most of you have heard, that my dad loves history, politics. He's immersed in it. Everything, it's just ever since he was a kid, he thinks about it. We had sometimes 3 televisions going on at the news because he didn't want to miss anything. He read the newspaper. He was just always going. So when we went out about this particular issue, he didn't just talk about that particular issue. He went back in history. And because he's interested in truth, being more interested in truth than in being right, he would give me the different perspectives. So it wasn't just his perspective. It was like, well, here's why your teacher thinks this, and here's why other people think this. And he's giving me all the perspectives, and then he's slowly taking me through his train of thought of looking at all these different ideas, and then he gets to his point of view, and my mind's like, wow, that really did take 2 hours, because I wouldn't have gotten there, but it was extraordinary. And I'm like, oh. And I don't know if I totally agreed with him. I definitely thought I liked what he said better than what the teacher said, but I still had my own concerns. But it was the amount of thought and depth and kindness and morality that I did not see until he explained it all to me thoroughly. And I never would have gotten it if he'd just given me a soundbite. And that was my dad. He was brilliant. When my oldest brother went off to college, he had a roommate, Elliot Spitzer, the future disgraced New York mayor. But they were having some history battle back and forth, so they called my dad to tell him what's what. So he had some impact. But the thing that we all got to recognize as a family is how much time he spent on it, how brilliant his mind was, but how little influence he had over any of these things. Like, he just had these really cool ideas, but didn't really go very far. He did, I will say this, because I want to honor him, he did spend 3 years of his life truly happy. He gave up very clearly only 3 years. He was willing to go work for the United States government as the chief tax counsel of the Senate Finance Committee. He worked for Russell Long, who was the majority leader. And in those 3 years, he took like a 2/3 pay cut to do it. And but in those 3 years, they passed a bill, the subchapter S tax bill. I know it changed all your lives. It did? Oh, that's so cool. So, I mean, now it's just like for 3 years he was participating in the government, and he was just so happy. And it was so clear as my two older brothers were already off at college, but I got to see him in this glory of the thing that he thought about, he finally got to participate in. But ultimately his commitment was to his kids, and he wanted to be able to provide for us to go through college, so he went back to his other job, which he liked, but not nearly as much. That was just a side, though. The idea is he was very concerned about a lot of things of which he didn't have much influence over. Now, maybe if he had gotten involved in various things, but he didn't. So a question to ask ourselves when I put circle of concern for today's talk, can you think about all the things that you are concerned about? Think about the things that are happening in our world, politically, what's happening in Iran. That's a very in everything, there's many different perspectives. I woke up, well, never mind, I can go off on a whole other tangent. No, stop. So there's a lot of things going on. Our environment, etc. ICE, money, the economy, AI. So think about all the things that are in your circle of concern. And then think about how many of those things that are in your circle of concern do you have any influence over? I mean, true and genuine influence. I've never been a huge fan of the way climate change has been talked about in the past. And I used to tell my brother, I said, it's like listening to the old-time fire and brimstone ministers, but now they're in the environment. It's like, you have destroyed this planet. People are bad. Repent. And if you don't repent, we're destroying the earth and you're going to go to hell. And literally the earth's going to blow up or something. So it's this very, almost feels like punishing. We've been terrible. Human beings have treated this earth terribly. Very negative. It's very hard to get, and we're doomed. Like, we're doomed. So I had the most joyful listening of a podcast the other day. It was with Simon Sinek and this a guy named, I don't know how many young people. Jen, I think you're our youngest one here. You'd be the only one who might, I don't know. Have you heard of a band named AJR? No? Julian said, of course I've heard of them, Mom. What? Sean has. All right, Sean. So there's a band called AJR, and they're three brothers, and the A is Adam Met. And apparently they're a pop band, and I don't know, I think they're fairly successful because he talks about playing in stadiums. And but he's also got a PhD. He's really into climate, and he was pure joy listening to him. He goes, oh, the planet's going to be fine. We have to worry about people, but this planet's going to survive us. We're good. He said, and he said, and so his thing is how to get people involved out of joy, out of things that they care about. So the first thing he talks about when he interacts with his environment issue. He has different nonprofits with the environment and with his pop, the stadium, and the stadiums that he fills. And he said, I don't go to people in North Carolina and ask them to care about fire, because that's just not an issue for them. Just like you wouldn't go to people in California and say, let's really work on hurricane issues. That he said, everyone has their own personal things that impact us personally. And that's the part where people will start getting involved and caring. So think about, when you're thinking about what are your circle of concern, what do you have influence over, what are the things that impact you directly? Because that already, now you have a little bit more skin in the game. One of the things I always recognize, until, other than those 3 years in the government, my dad didn't have a lot of skin in the game. He had a lot of brilliance, for which I am so grateful for, but he didn't have a lot of skin in the game. But if there are things impacting you personally, then you're going to want to have some say in it. Be part of the solutions. There's a guy named, this guy Adam, and what he was saying is that the most important thing that people can do is get involved locally. He said, you're going to have very little impact. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about who you're going to vote for president. He said, but that actually has much less impact than if you got involved at the community level and started impacting things locally, because you have some influence over that. You can participate. You have a voice. You can be solution consciousness. You don't want to just come up in your local community again and talk about all the terrible things wrong with what's going on in the community, and that's not helpful. But you can show up in your community and say, these are possibilities, and here's what I can do. So now we're shifting from just being concerned, just from being a bystander and watching, and saying, oh no, I can be part of the solution. I can start seeing possibilities here, and I'm willing to show up and be part of that solution. Now we're into ownership. Now we're into a place of what I'm following this next month, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that first habit is about being proactive, about being aware of what you have influence over and what you don't. That we all have a big circle of concern, but we actually have it's a much smaller circle of what we have influence over. And to get conscious of what we have influence over, and then say, do I want to be part of the solution? Do I want to be part of the possibilities? And then we take it even more personal and make it even more and say, oh, the person I really have a lot of influence over is myself. Every one of us. You know, I'm sure you've all heard this about when you have a child, and that your children are your heart walking outside of you. It's like, I want so many things for him, but I only have a minutiae amount of influence over him. I have some, but not much. It's his life. He has to make these choices and the mistakes and the growth and whatever he chooses to do. I can support him, I can love him, and that's key. We need support and love and teamwork. We'll get to that. That's part of the journey. But first and foremost, he has to make those decisions. And so what that leaves me with is just myself. It leaves you with just yourself. What are those decisions you are making for yourself? How are you being part of the solution for yourself? So we can be, I loved the word that I've heard twice now in 2 days, so I caught it, was an Ernest Holmes saying we can each be a portal. And someone else was talking about that, and I'm going to talk about how the other person used portal. But that we can be a portal of light. And that doesn't mean we're a portal of perfection. That's been a lot of conversation on the ministers' listserv. Nobody here, no human being is perfect, and we will always have our limitations and our weaknesses and our shadow side. So when we're talking about our whole self, it has to include those parts if we're going to include our humanity. But we can continue to do our work so we can still allow the light to come through. Still allow and say yes to that light being a part of who and what we are. And that's a choice. And we do that choice. Remember, we were talking about saying a prayer as much as we can. Start the year with having a prayer. And that prayer is something that affirms you, who you are, what the divine presence is to and through you by constantly, that constant repetition. And it's funny that we're doing this 7 habits. I hadn't planned on it. But he talks a lot about the power of repetition, because who we are is what we're repeating in our head to ourselves all of the time about who we are. And so we can become a portal. So and another key part of this is commitment. And actually that's the piece that really stuck with me, because to be proactive, to be part of this, we have to have a commitment. Because there's so many things that can throw us off our path. Things about ourselves that can throw us, oh man, I'm a terrible person, I shouldn't, whatever. Or, we are not kind to ourselves. We start beating ourselves up and they're like, no, I'm not going to do it then, because I'm not perfect. But also things externally. Oh, look what's happening to the world, or look what's happening at my job, or what my boss is doing. So it's the Stephen Covey, it's very similar to I would say almost totally similar to what we teach. I feel like he read our books. But he said the difference is when we're not empowered, we say, I wish I had a different teacher, I wish I had a different job, I wish I had a different boss, I wish I had, or I have to do this. It's like I have to, or I wish I had, or it's sort of not where the empowered language is, I can be peace. I can be compassionate. I can be loving. And there's a beingness to it that is not dictated by outside circumstances. And so you all know people like that, right? And you are people like that. That's what we do, is we do our work on principles. I love him saying that principles are our lighthouse, because those principles, no matter what, are true. And the moment we keep returning back to those over and over and over, that becomes the power of our life that can include all life. One of the things I've really enjoyed recently is in having conversations with our friend Beth Stiles. She was sharing how she's really committed to a personal prayer practice where she prays for herself. Like, she was very good at praying for other people, and she said, I'm going to pray for myself, and she's been doing it now for quite some time. And being a creative person, she just created a whole little, I didn't even know, as I was asking her more about it, like, there's always these little rituals that she's created, cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot that she does creatively around saying this prayer for herself every day. And I said, well, how have you experienced things different? And she said, I've just become gentler. I've become gentler with myself and with other people by remembering who I really am. We spend a lot of time sometimes, we get a lot of positive feedback in our culture for how much we do out there, how much service we give out there, and we forget to give service to our soul and commit to that service, because repetition, the commitment is the repetition is the commitment. So if we're going to become healed lights, a place of light and goodness, we commit to living that every day, no matter what anyone else's opinions of us are, no matter what circumstances are happening out there, we're committed to the divine life within us. That is a place of true empowerment. So as you continue to say, yes, I'm a leader of light, because everyone here is a leader of light. Everyone here, I always feel like, sorry, I don't mean to leave you all out. Everyone here is a leader of light. And with leadership comes commitment. And commitment first and foremost to the divine presence within us, to that divine light and that divine truth within us. That's being the most proactive, energized person we can be. Now, when we do that, throughout those practices, we'll come across our dark side, which has different shapes and forms along the way. Probably if I had $1 I'd be much wealthier. If for everyone who has said in the decades I've been doing this, I can't believe I'm still working on this. I thought I already solved this problem. Because there's this idea that we have, and we were talking about this in class, that if I just keep working on it, I will rid myself of all human weakness and I will be perfect. And I think I said it last week, I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect human. And I would say I've never met one or heard of one. So if you're striving towards a perfection, and how I'm defining perfect and how we think about it now, maybe not the big idea of perfect, but the perfect, like, I got a perfect score on my paper, meaning I didn't get anything wrong. I have no sins, I have no mistakes, I don't have any dark side, I'm perfect. That doesn't exist in any one of us. So it's learning how to be kind to ourselves throughout our journey of being leaders of light. So in this, we were having, because of recent unfoldings, there's been a conversation that's been ongoing, because I think it's very near and dear to people who are leaders of light, ministers, and feeling a lot of discomfort. You know, we all have our stuff, right? So everyone ministers like, well, I got my stuff, because someone came out and was just tearing everybody apart. And so there became this thing, I'm not going to get into all of it. It was very interesting, but then this one minister shared this story to remind everybody when we say this is, and by the way, for those of you who have a long memory, we had a minister who came years ago, like 2016 or 17, who gave a very similar talk. But this is a totally different person, but very similar. And there was an idea that there's certain things that are just unforgivable, that are unacceptable. And so this one minister this past week was sharing some really horrible things that happened to him when he was a child and in his family. And he said, and I had a shaman, and this has happened, he's been in this teaching for longer than I have. So this isn't someone who's like brand new, but all of it started to come out at one point. And he had a shaman take him in, and he got him to the point where where he was with the person who did a lot of the harm. And the shaman said, tell him thank you for a life. You've done a good job, you good servant. And he said, I couldn't, it was almost impossible, and I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do it. And finally I just said it. And he said, my whole body just opened up in pure light. And it was like, you got it, you got it. There's nothing that spirit can't heal within us. Or at least he says it's not that that part isn't still injured, but at the same time it's a portal of pure light for him. And that's why I heard that word portal. He said basically what he's saying is that if we say spirit is everywhere through all of life, that doesn't mean we condone bad things. We want to stop them and do what we can to prevent them from happening. But so far, humanity has not been able to stop bad things from happening. So we also want to say, even when the bad things are happening, even there is a portal into the light. But we have to have the courage and the willingness to look right at it and say, oh, here's a portal of light for me now, for healing. And I can tell you, just in him sharing that story, it was a light for all of us who read it. Like it spread, that light spread. Have you ever heard that when one person does a lot of work, it starts to spread even beyond where they know? And it's not through proselytizing or getting up, and it's just by becoming. It's just a quiet becomingness that we feel. I remember, Agape has a lot of very dynamic leaders, but I remember at one point, this Zen teacher came, and he didn't speak on a Sunday. He was just coming to do a workshop, and I happened to meet him just because I was on staff, because it wasn't on a Sunday. It wasn't a big presentation. It was just sort of off on the side. He was doing something, and I went over and talked to him, and the presence, whoosh, and there was nothing I could point to. It wasn't anything he was saying, but the presence was so powerful. You become that in your commitment to who you really want to be every day through your commitment, through saying, yes, I am here to be a leader of light. Yes, I'm going to commit no matter how hard it is, no matter how many difficult things can show up. I'm going to continue to say yes to being that leader of light. I'm going to continue to be a proactive, solution-oriented vehicle of light no matter what, for the divine presence on earth as it is in heaven. And I just want to also say this isn't just for us as individuals, but part of being in a community is feeling that we're willing to support others on their journey, no matter what. That to your right and to your left, right now, if you just look right and left, look around at the boxes, this is your community, front and behind. This is your community. And it's your community if you own that this is your community. If you say, oh, this is my community, I'm going to commit to you. We're going to do something, and I want to say there's some people who might just be here for a second, just for a day. Maybe this isn't about committing your entire life, but just for today and for this moment, I would like you all to stand. And for those online, for those who are willing to be on camera, that would be great. But just stand for a minute. And I want you to be in a circle, because I want you, or you don't have to be in an exact circle, but just so you're facing one another as much as you can. Because I know you all are leaders of light here. And you're going to do the same thing online. And you don't have to hold hands. If you can hold hands, it's lovely. I love that you hold hands. Oh, you're so connected already. So this is what you're committing to one another, and as much as you can, I want you just to repeat after me. I commit to the best of my ability. I am going to be fully me. I commit to the best of my ability. I am going to be fully me in light, in love, in compassion, in forgiveness, and in grace. I commit to the best of my ability. I am going to be fully myself. And now I want you to continue to look at everybody, and I want you to say to one another, I commit to you to fully support you in being yourself. I fully commit to you to see you as pure love, to pure compassion. I forgive you. I see you. I love you. I am here for you. I will not quit seeing you in this way for all eternity. And so it is. Amen. You can be seated. Yes. Leaders of light just claimed it, and thank you for doing it for one another. Thank you. I hope you all participated online. Oh, was it up there? Oh, man, I missed it. Sorry. Oh, they are. Yay. And I love it. They're all on camera. They're not hiding. Or maybe there's some hiding. I don't know. I can never figure. Oh, there's people who have cameras off. They're not on. Well, we love you all in the dark and in the light. Okay, so let's just pray now. What else is there to do when we just love each other up, see each other, commit to this beautiful process of being fully who we are, to commit, to choose, to influence our beautiful inner world with our light, with our choices, our thoughts, and our love, and our forgiveness, and our compassion, and our kindness, and our joy, and our creativity, and our value and respect. And the beauty of doing this commitment, of being and feeling into this commitment, is to realize that everybody in this room who we've just committed to online are in our hearts. There's no separation. That our commitment to ourselves is our commitment to one another. This is the beauty of living in a spiritual community. We aren't afraid to say who and what we really are, and that we are here to support you in being who and what you really are. And the miracle is that this entire world is a spiritual community. That there's no place where it stops and something else begins. That every person with whom we come into contact is a place where we get to shine our light and receive their light, where we can give support to that cashier, to someone who's feeling frazzled, to just reach out in kindness in all these random moments and saying, hey, I'm here, I see you. Because I have seen myself, I can see you. Because I am tender and committed to the truth of who I am, I can be tender and loving to who you are. We begin with ourselves. And as we continue to grow and grow, our circle of influence grows and grows with us. And this is how we are the healers and the revealers of love, of light, of freedom, and of unlimited joy. And for all of those areas in our life that are painful, that are scary to look at, we invite support to give us support to have the courage to look at those parts in our hearts and our souls. We don't have to do it on our own. For there is only one love in this room, in this planet, on this cosmos. And we welcome those people who are here where we can seek out that courage to look within and see those places in us that we don't want to see, that hurt so much it feels almost unbearable. For when we do that, extraordinary miracles suddenly happen. Suddenly, but not really suddenly. They've always been there. There's nothing we need to be afraid of. Nothing we need to be afraid of in our heart. There is only love. And we are loving each other into that greater love in this moment and truly for all eternity. There is no limit ever. So for the love that is alive and awake in each of us here and now, that continues to call forth the healing and the revealing of pure spirit as our life and the life in which we are involved in our work life, in what's happening in our world, we continue to step forward and be active possibilities, active vehicles of light, active vehicles of influence, of pure joy, of creativity, of solutions, of possibilities. We are that place. So deep abiding gratitude, I just release this word now, knowing it has already happened and it is already done, as we say together, and so it is. Amen.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all that I say.